As I come here in commemoration, not for show, Selma is a reckoning. The right to vote, to have your vote counted, is the threshold of democracy and liberty. With it, anything's possible. Without it, without that right, nothing is possible. And this fundamental right remains under assault. We must remain vigilant. In January, I signed the Electoral Count Reform Act to protect the will of the people and the peaceful transfer of power. We know that we must get the votes in Congress to pass the John Lewis Voting Rights Advancement Act and the Freedom to Vote Act. I made it clear, I will not let a filibuster obstruct the sacred right to vote, the right of any other right to vote from there. And that's why you follow the words that you all have, the words of Dr. King. He said, give us the ballot, we will place judges on the bench who will do justly. Led by Justice Ketanji Brown Jackson and more black women appointed to the federal appellate court than every other president in history has done, we're about to do that.
Former U.S. President Donald Trump, who is again seeking the White House as a Republican, spoke at the Conservative Political Action Conference in Washington this weekend and made clear that his message was the future of Republican politics in America.
We had a Republican Party that was ruled by freaks, neocons, globalists, open border zealots, and fools. But we are never going back to the party of Paul Ryan, Karl Rove, and Jeb Bush.
Trump could assail the Republican Party's former leaders and luminaries with impunity at CPAC because at CPAC almost everything was Trump. His face flashed on tank tops and lettered t-shirts, twinkled on rings and bedazzled high heels. Supporters could show their commitment to his MAGA agenda on hats and their loyalty on stickers. The speakers included some of Trump's most loyal allies in Congress, including far-right Republican Representatives Marjorie Taylor Greene, Matt Gaetz, and Lauren Boebert. Some were recent election losers turned election deniers, such as Arizona Republican gubernatorial candidate Kari Lake.
They stole that election. The entire world saw it.
And Brazil's former president Jair Bolsonaro. Trump wasn't even the only speaker named Trump.
We need a president that is not owned by other people.
There was his son, Donald Trump Jr., and his daughter-in-law, Laura Trump. In the run-up to an election year, CPAC typically showcases rival Republican candidates, but so far only former South Carolina Governor and UN Ambassador Nikki Haley has declared her intentions to challenge the 45th president.
This is my purpose. This is our mission. Let's save our country from weakness and wokeness. Let's bring back a nation that's strong and proud.
Haley and former U.S. Secretary of State Mike Pompeo, another potential presidential candidate, received polite, if tepid, responses from the crowd. Haley was met with chants of Trump in the hallway outside the ballroom where she gave her speech. CPAC once was the premier gathering of the party's Republicans in Washington. It was skipped this year by most Republican members of Congress and the nation's Republican governors. Many speakers spoke to a half-empty ballroom, and attendance overall seemed noticeably lower than in years past.
And you're going to have World War III, by the way. You're going to have World War III. If something doesn't happen fast, you're going to have World War III.
Trump, in his remarks closing the event Saturday night, offered a dark vision of decay and violence if he wasn't reelected in 2024.
But we have no choice. If we don't do this, our country will be lost forever.
And offering a promise of restoration and revenge if he wins.
I am your warrior. I am your justice. And for those who have been wronged and betrayed, I am your retribution. I am your retribution. Not going to let this happen.
Ahead of a suspected bid for the White House, Florida Governor Ron DeSantis took his fight against liberalism into the deep Democratic territory of California on Sunday.
I know you guys got a lot of problems out here, but your governor's very concerned about what we're doing in Florida, so I figured I had to come by.
Speaking at the Ronald Reagan Presidential Library about 50 miles north of Los Angeles, DeSantis attacked Democratic leaders as being infected with a, quote, woke mind virus. He's made war on liberalism a central theme of his governorship and a way to appeal to the Republican base.
So in Florida, we say very clearly, we will never, ever surrender to the woke mob. Our state is where woke goes to die.
DeSantis also took aim at Walt Disney, which opposes a Florida law opponents call Don't Say Gay, restricting classroom instruction around gender and sexual orientation. Last month, he signed a bill that takes control of a special tax district surrounding Walt Disney World that for half a century allowed it to operate with a high degree of autonomy. He also made a veiled reference to the chaos of Donald Trump's presidency and his defeat to Democratic President Joe Biden in 2020. Trump has already declared he will make a bid for the White House.
I can tell you in 4 years, you didn't see our administration leaking like a sieve. You didn't see a lot of drama or palace intrigue. What you saw was surgical precision execution, day after day after day. And because we did that, we beat the left day after day after day.
Other candidates expected to jump into the Republican primary race include former Vice President Mike Pence and former Secretary of State Mike Pompeo. Nikki Haley, Trump's former ambassador to the United Nations, declared her candidacy last month.
Negotiators from more than 100 countries completed a UN treaty late on Saturday, aimed at protecting the high seas. It's a long-awaited step that environmental groups say will help reverse marine biodiversity loss. Very little of the high seas, which are outside national jurisdictions, are subject to any protection. Pollution, acidification, and overfishing pose a growing threat. The legally binding pact to conserve and ensure the sustainable use of ocean biodiversity has been under discussion for 15 years.
Good evening-ish.
This is UN Conference President Rina Lee at the end of a marathon day of talks.
The ship has reached the shore.
Economic interests had been a major sticking point throughout the latest round of negotiations. Developing countries were calling for a greater share of the spoils from the blue economy, including the transfer of technology. The treaty is seen as a crucial component in global efforts to bring 30% of the world's land and sea under protection by the end of the decade. Greenpeace says 4.2 million square miles of ocean needs to be put under protection every year to meet the target, which is known as 30 by 30. Laura Meller, a Greenpeace Oceans campaigner who attended the talks, said countries need to formally adopt and ratify the treaty as quickly as possible to bring it into force, and then deliver the fully protected ocean sanctuaries our planet needs.
I'm the only candidate who can make this promise. I will prevent, and very easily, World War III, very easily. And you're going to have World War III, by the way. You're going to have World War III. If something doesn't happen fast, you're going to have World War III. Before I even arrive at the Oval Office, I will have the disastrous war between Russia and Ukraine settled. It will be settled quickly. I will get the problem solved, and I will get it solved in rapid order. And it will take me no longer than one day. I know exactly what to say to each of them. I got along very well with them. I got along very well with Putin, even though I'm the one that ended his pipeline. Remember, they said, Trump is giving a lot to Russia. Really? Putin actually said to me, if you're my friend, I'd hate like hell to see you as my enemy. I alone will never retreat. That is why. When we started this journey, a journey like there has never been before, there's never been anything like this. We had a Republican Party that was ruled by freaks, neocons, globalists, open border zealots, and fools. But we are never going back to the party of Paul Ryan, Karl Rove, and Jeb Bush. that was a big win.